Hello everyone. Can you hear me well? Hello. Okay, I think we can start right now. So, welcome to the seminar about Senua Sacrifice, a seminar of the History and Games Lab at the University of Edinburgh, and my name is Alexandra Anokhina. Today I will present my report about emotions and game design. This report consists of two parts. First, I will show a short presentation, and in the second part, I will demonstrate a gameplay of Senua as it is, how everything works on practice. So first of all, let's talk a bit about the basic information about Senua and the technical data. Senua Sacrifice is was developed for about 3 years by Ninja Theory, and the final release came in August 2017. Ninja Theory is a Cambridge-based game developers. It was a PC and PlayStation 4 exclusive. In 2017 wasn't a year of big releases. However, we can name at least Nier Automata, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wind, and of course, Divinity Original Sin 2. For this occasion, Senua Sacrifice became a notable action product, even if it came without an extensive marketing. Ninja Theory characterized Senua Sacrifice as a triple-A indie game made on their own money and published by themselves. This team used Unreal Engine 4, which is one of the most popular game engines based on C++. It's not easy to define the genre of this game since it has elements of the action, adventure, horror, and quest. What we can say exactly is that the story and narrative approach follow a linear structure. That means a player must follow an already established direction without making own solutions that we are produced to do in the open world games. This narration makes Senua Sacrifice more cinematographic, directed by the storyteller, and the only role of a player is to observe the established plot. On the other hand, a plot of this game is a main component which sets the tone for the visualization. The plot is repeating a story of many mythological traditions and tells us about the travel into hell, which is a fruit of Senua's imagination. Uh, Memories and fears. Senua is a picked warrior who came back from the exile and found that her settlement was burned by Vikings and her beloved one, Dilion, was crucified. She went to Helheim, the Scandinavian hell, in order to find with Hela, a goddess of Helheim, to get Dilion's soul back and resurrect him. For that reason, she carries Dillion's head, since she believes that it's the only vessel of his soul. This task became an obsession for Senua. Challenging the darkness, each step to hell brings Senua closer to her own death, because after each stage, her injured right hand is struck by the black rod, which is gradually covering her body. On the other way, on her way, she is following by many voices, a voice of her friend Durt, who became her own Virgilio in this hell, voice of Dilion, voice of her mother, who, as Senua thought, committed suicide due to the voices and hallucinations she had, as the same as Senua experienced. Finally, she is followed by the evil voice, a voice of the shadow, which humiliates Senua and provokes her traumatic memories. In the final of this game, observing. Sorry, guys, I'm unable to read the chat, but I see you ask me to say louder, but I can read all commentaries. So, Then the final voice is a voice of shadow, which humiliates Senua and provokes her traumatic memories. In the final of this game, observing Senua's life before her exile, we will know that her first traumas were caused by her cruel father, whose voice is the voice of the shadow. Hela, her servants, her guards, and the darkness itself are not the real antagonists, because they are just elements of the setting, and the only challenge in this game is a fight inside the troubling mind of Senua. A range of mental issues are depicted as the images of demons, obsessive search for the signs, or escapes from her fears and traumatic memories, like fire or hell, where she met her mother. Surviving the trauma, panic attacks, and psychosis is a core component of the plot and the main element of the gameplay. Historically, the setting of this game covers the 8th and 9th centuries and the Viking occupation of the Scottish Islands. This historical circumstance gives another narrative element to the personal story of Senua. She has to fight with gods and cults of the hostile intruders who traumatized and destroyed her world. A combination of the mythological elements, fears, traumas, memories, and imagination of Senua provides us an experience of the creative element of psychosis that make this image unique and personal. Any good game provides the unique personal experience for a player that make games more involving than books or movies. Senua's Sacrifice unique experience is to give an image of the world and emotion of the people with mental disorders. First of all, psychosis, but also demonstrates typical symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder, a spectrum of borderline disorder issues, bipolar disorder, a spectrum of issues related to schizophrenia and post-traumatic syndrome. Psychosis is an umbrella term that refers to a sensory experience of auditory and visual hallucinations as well as beliefs that have no basis in reality. A gameplay implies to experience such symptoms as depersonalization, derealization, catatonic stupor, pareidolia, and hallucinations. This became possible because of several game design solutions, such as binaural recording. You will see it in my gameplay part, which gives an experience of conflicting voices in Senua's mind, visual puzzles, which shows the pareidolia, and motivated or unmotivated searching for signs, and changing the word from black to white using the mask and Senua's memories. Considering this complex disorder, this game raises such questions as how the people with the mental disorder see the world, how does the memory work in cases of mental disorder, and what's the impact of one memories on the image of the world, how do emotions change the mental world, and what's the role of material objects in the mental world, and finally, how does the childhood impact on the anamnesis. Besides, it also raises more socially oriented issues, such as the role of attachment and image of the parents, abandonment, hyperidealization, social acceptance of the mental issues, and self-estimation in cases of mental disorders. Gamification of psychological disorders is a complicated and debatable approach. If you consider games from their entertaining component, we will see that many games raise the question of mental disorders, but mostly they are pretended in the negative they are presented in the negative perspective. More likely, people with the mental disorders in games are mostly maniacs. However, some products, including Senua, aim to cover a more realistic and less stigmatizing image of the disorders, which is a hard process since it's always a unique and personal experience. As David Silu said on his review of Elude, which is a 2D platformer focused on the image of depression, a game that puts you into the shoes of someone who is living with depression, could help alleviate the social stigma, because players would experience for themselves that being sucked into the black hole had nothing to do with their skills or strength of character. And Senua precisely gives a player an experience of defenseless before the face of the mental disorder, as it presented in the scene when Senua meets Hella for the first time.
The gate is opening.
Who is it? It's humming.
That song again.
Is it? Is it? Is it?
It's Hella.
Yes, the source of the darkness. It's coming. This is your moment.
I'm sorry. I can't watch this.
What are you doing? You're showing weakness. You're not a warrior. You're a disgrace. The gods will punish you for this. Pick up the sword. Pick it up. Fight the darkness. Fight it. Get up. Get up. Get up and fight.
So I think this is one of the most powerful scenes in Senua Sacrifice, but basically you will see a lot of very impressive cutscenes during the whole game, and I think in all like 7 or 10 hours of gameplay, a significant part, like 3 or 4 hours, will be cutscenes which are really impressive and gives a particular experience of any of psychological stages like panic attack or catatonic stupor or whatever. So, turning from the psychological perspective of giving the unique experience of disorder, let's think what historians can learn from gamification of the mental world. How can we use such powerful instruments like Unreal Engine 4 for visualization of the mental spaces of modern and pre-modern individuals? Clearly, Senua's game raises a question how the image of the world is changed by traumatic experience and dysfunctions of attachment. I propose it can be used in broader perspectives related to not only such subjects as medieval mysticism, dreams, and visions, but also spatial issues, since game engines are not limited in their instruments, and basically you can create everything you wish. It only depends on your knowledge of this particular instrument. In that sense, game engines can be a perspective instrument for visualization and creating models for neuroscience perspective in medieval, in early modern studies. As Juliana Dresvina noted in her introduction to Middle Ages and Neuroscience, um, book is called Cognitive Sciences and Medieval Studies. We indeed don't have enough samples of the medieval or early modern brains to consider their morphology comparatively to modern organs. However, we have some personal narrations and object of visual culture in the Middle Ages and early modern period, which of course should not be reduced to the abbreviation of the arts, but they all are products of the embodied mind developed in a particular physical, intellectual, and cultural environment. And I propose that the game engines can be a fascinating tool for reconstruction and visualization of the circumstances on several levels, because they allow to combine several spaces. The scientific part of Senua was developed in collaboration with psychiatrists and people with mental issues. Her psychosis is considered as a damnation within religious cults of her tribe, For that, she was exiled, and for that, her mother was killed. In this case, we see the combination of the modern approach for the mental issues with categorization of particular symptoms and their visualization put into context of early medieval religious cults and traumatic experience. As Juliana Drizina writes, it may well be that what the psychiatrists and social workers of today would classify as dysfunction was a normative developmental trajectory in the past. In that sense, a rich narrative and contextual potential of the game engines can help in reconstruction of the particular context, as it is partly done in Senua within the religious cults and interaction with gods, interaction with voices, and interaction with her own past. And now let's see how everything works in practice and how this game works with this task with a short introduction into the game. So basically, I would like to show you the first scene and a couple of following scenes, which give us a certain image how everything works and introduce a player into the gameplay and game mechanics.
Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome. You're safe with me. I'll be right here, nice and close so I can speak without alerting the others. Let me tell you about Senua. Her story has already come to an end, but now it begins anew.
What's happening? It's breathing. Dead. It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer. She's getting closer. They're watching. They're watching. They're watching.
This is a journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories after this one.
What is she doing? Why is she doing this? They're watching. Why doesn't she do coming? She's doing this for him. She wants to rescue him. He's already dead. I feel you coming.
Quiet. Oh, how rude of me. I never told you of the others. You hear them too, right? They've been around ever since the tragedy. Well, that's not quite true. Some are old, some are new, but they've changed. I think the darkness changed them, just like it changed her.
Can you see them? Over there. Why isn't she looking? Why aren't you looking? He's in hell high.
Look, up ahead.
In hell high.
You see it too?
You promised you came.
Yes. It is real after all. She's finally arrived in the land of mist and fog. The place the Northmen call Hell.
Turn back. Go back. Go back. It's not safe. Go back. Go back. Go back. It's not safe.
It's them. They're here.
You see that? I can see it. Can you see them? Can you see them? They're going to do that to you. They're watching. Stop. Can you feel them watching? They're watching her. They're watching her. You're so close to the darkness. Go back. Can you feel it?
What is she thinking? I can tell you. She's afraid. Wouldn't you be? You'd think she would get used to it by now after so many years. But the darkness, it just builds onto itself, growing stronger, towering over her. You might try and ignore it, turn away. But it's always there, just out of sight, where you're most vulnerable. It's like it knows that just enough light is all you need to see its suffocating power.
They can feel you.
You might think she's brave to go on this journey on her own, but it isn't bravery that drives her. Bravery only means something to those afraid of death. Senua's fear runs far, far deeper. What is she looking at? What is she leaving behind? I know what she's thinking. I hear her thoughts. It's not too late to get into the boat and go back. No one will judge her. No one will ever know. Oh, she heard us.
There's no going back. You can't do it.
Senua pushes away a world that conspired to cause so much suffering. There's nothing to go back to, and worse to look forward to. Why don't you join us? Maybe you too have a part to play in this story.
So, and our game starts in this starting point.
You have to take a closer look to see.
This is the first story
Do
that
not
I
forget
started.
my stories, Senua. Because your darkness comes from hell, and your fate lies there. They say the burning of a corpse will take you straight to Hela's gate, but gods and the living will follow this path. You must leave the Isles of Orkney across the eastern sea and find a road that leads north and down through deep, dark valleys. After 9 nights of riding, you will follow a great river and will find a bridge covered in gold. The path to Helheim goes from there, across the River of Knives that flows from the dark world of Niflheim.
So, this is basically a story that gives some historical introduction into Scandinavian mythology and where is placed in this game. So we are placed on the right shoulder of Senua that gives us an image that we are part of these voices. So we don't see the world by pure eyes, we're just observers and like active part of the voices, let's say. And so, going into this match, here we receive a first emotional strike.
Darkness is coming. Yearns for life. Hungers for it. Like a pack of wolves on the hunt. But she's not stopping. Not this time.
Can you see it?
The land of mist and fog.
He's in there.
The old fool was right.
You see it?
What was it he said? The river of knives across which lies the halls of hell. The place they call Helheim.
He's lost. He's lost.
Where are you? I hear you.
He's there, you know.
There's no doubt about
He's
it.
lost.
The source of the darkness is in Helheim,
They're calling
and the goddess Hela holds his soul there. Coming. Her dear beloved, Dillian.
Okay, yeah, I will play it with sounds that maybe it will be more convenient for everybody to listen my voice and listen also the voice of the game and everything. So maybe now it should be better.
What is she doing? Why is she doing this? Why doesn't she turn back? She's doing this for him. She wants to rescue him. He's already dead.
The bridge to Helheim. I forget its name. She forgets too. But she does remember that only the dead may cross it. That part wasn't so easy to forget. The old fool said there was a hidden path up to it. Let's see, shall we?
The second stone.
The Northmen speak of 9 worlds. The world of men they call Midgard. Sky gods dwell in Asgard. The gods of earth, harvest, wind, and sea dwell in Vanaheim. The good elves dwell in Alfheim. The evil ones dwell in Svartalfheim. The mountain giants dwell in Jotunheim. The fire giants dwell in Muspelheim. Niflheim is the world of ice and darkness. Only the dead dwell in Helheim. And that is where you must travel.
That's the way.
As you can hear, these voices tells us what's the right way and where should we go and where should not we go.
You don't know where you're going. You've got to go. Get down. What's she waiting for? Why did she do
Okay.
that? She shouldn't have done it. She can't go back now.
No, this is it. The hidden path.
Don't kill me. I'm not one of them. I was just hiding. I find I live longer that way. I'll never let the bastards catch me again. Never! Wait. Who are you?
It's just a memory.
Druth? Is that you?
For my tales of the Northmen, they call me Druth. A liar. An old fool. Druth is my truth.
It's good to see you again. You kept your vow.
Guide you in this life and the next. I will tell you my stories of hell, if I may walk with you.
Tell me your stories again, old friend. I'm listening.
The runes seal the gates to hell. Focus your inner eye, and you too will see what's hidden in plain sight.
Focus. Look closer.
Oh, so, do you hear me now better than it was before?
Look closer. Focus.
I can see one.
Hold it in your mind's eye. Find one like it to open the gate.
So, basically, this puzzle is a typical example of Senua's quests, which are based on the image of Idolia and searching for particular signs or particular providence or whatever as obsessive as an obsessive idea during the psychosis and other mental disorders. And now we see a particular sign, particular rune on the doors, and therefore what we need to do, we need to find this sign in the environment, which shows us one of the part of Senua's personality, because she explained that she always during her childhood and ever now was looking for particular signs and saw the world in another perspective that everybody does. So, and therefore a gamer must find this sign in the environment and receive this special effects, and now we see this sign as a shadow of a tree and branches. So we are returning to this door and open it.
Go through it. It's dangerous.
Did it work?
It's fine. I'm not taking you. It's unsafe.
I spent 6 years enslaved in hell. But I watched the Northmen
So basically the
mount
environment
their ways.
I know you did.
You listened when everyone else laughed. My people paid a heavy price. Carry my stories with you, and together we will make the Northmen feel our fury.
So basically the environment is a sort of narrative element because
Another voice joins us. She once tried to make them go away. Pretend they weren't real. But what good is that? When we are always here.
because what we see actually is a reflection of current Senua state. Basically, we will see several times how this world becomes flourishing, bright, and beautiful during Senua's memories and using the mask in particular episodes of this game. But mostly we will see this very depressing, very grey image.
I guess it's the same with heights. You can stand on the edge, pretend it's going to be okay. But you know that death is near, waiting for you to make that little slip.
of the dead is ruled by the giantess, Hela, daughter of Loki. The gods feared her bloodline, bad on her mother's side and yet much worse on her father's. So, as a child, the All-Father cast her down into Helheim and gave her power over those who die of sickness, age, hardship, and self-slaughter. In all of the 9 worlds, only Hela can resurrect the dead. To Hela, your Dillion was sacrificed, and with her you must bargain.
Stay back. Look at it. You have to open it.
The gate to Helheim divides the living from the dead. Is that the face of Hela herself? The half-rotten goddess that rules over Helheim. Whatever horrors lie behind that door, she must find him. Shh. Someone's here. You took him from me. I beg you, let him go. I'll give you what you want. I won't resist anymore. Just give him back.
So this is the first combat scene. This is for humans.
End it. No. This is nearly the end. She will die.
A vision of what's to come. Poor Senua. The darkness does not bargain, it does not reason. It is rot. And now it has taken hold. It will spread towards her head, the seat of the soul, until there is nothing left of her. All of her suffering will have been for nothing. It's just a matter of time. The hardest battles are fought in the mind. That is what Dillian taught her. With every defeat, the dark rot will grow and soon it will take her soul. But for now, at least, she still has control of her mind. And she will fulfill her vow. Whatever the cost.
He's not right.
Listen to me, Senua. The goddess Hela lies behind the gate to Helheim. To open the gate, you must first face the gods that guard it. The god of fire, Surt, and the god of illusion, Valravan. Spill their blood to open the gate to Helheim and enter the land of the dead.
So, this scene is quite interesting and full of different interpretations.
To fight two gods first.
Because so we received this traumatized right hand and dark root which is covering her body during the game, but actually never finished. And then yes, this death is canonical because you are unable to win in the fight with these shadow-covered demons until you will receive a mirror. So yes, and this death and these interactions between dead Senua and actual Senua is not only one when we have to look at us from the third perspective. We will receive several scenes where Senua is talking with herself using different voices. So when she's talking with the mirrors, when she is reflected, and the voice of the mirror is the voice of shadow and implies her to hurt himself, as actually we received here, because as you could look, she tried to scratch her arm, which I think can be also interpreted as a self-harm, as one of the symptoms of psychosis and unstable mental health. And also it's again important part of the game process. So let's see another stone.
In the beginning, there was nothing but darkness. Bitter cold to the north, fiery hot to the south. They say the cold formed ice, which melted from the sparks from the south. The power of the darkness gave life to the dripping ice, and the first giant was born, and was named Ymir. The ice continued to drip, and the power of the void gave life to it, and it became a cow, whose milk fed the giant. That's right, a cow. Bet you weren't expecting that.
So I think we can gradually go to finish, because I show the basic mechanics of this game and how it introduced into it.
Surt, the fire giant has answered. He comes from a land older than mankind. And the Northmen call upon his flaming sword to raise their enemies to the ground.
So basically this interaction with fire is another interesting point. Because, as I told, during the plot we all know that
She found the wretched old fool on her way back from the wilds. An outcast. Was badly burnt all over. She took pity on him, for he was not long for this world. Like her, who spoke of his own darkness. The Northmen.
So during the plot we will know that the settlement of Senua was burned by Vikings, and also we will know that her mother was burned, killed by her father, who was a servant of religious cult. And now you see how we experience unstable emotional state turning into these memories of burned settlements, which was very traumatic for Senua.
It's nearly over. Finish it. Find a good position. Don't let them surround you.
And now you see that when we killed all these demons, our environment became bright again. So I think it's a very nice representation of panic attacks, because these demons appears in such struggling and difficult moments related to memories of Senua, and like this particular one relates to her traumatized memory of burned settlement, her burned village, and killed, and the fact that the Viking killed her loved one. So we will receive many moments like that, and I think it's a very interesting game design solution for representation of the panic attacks. So I think basically I show everything what are the basic and introductory points of Senua's sacrifice, and I think now we can finish the translation and go to our discussion, go to our questions. So you can ask in the chat whatever you want, and I will try to answer. If you have any further questions about my report or about gameplay, or want to comment if I'm good or if I'm bad in streaming in games, please do. So basically I'm trying now to figure everything with my broadcast software, because suddenly turned off. Yeah, now everything looks better, I think. Yeah. So, okay. Well, answering to Justin's question. Well, I think it's an interesting game design solution because it offers us to be like observer and to be um, probably a guide for Senua because, well, these voices, one of the function of these voices is to be guides. And basically, a player as one of the voices is like an active guide because we because playing we show like direction. And the matter is this game is sometimes too cinematographic because a gamer has quite limited functions in making his own decisions, and everything is directed. So in that sense, I think it's a very elegant solution to make us as one of the active voices, because I can't basically imagine this game as like a typical RPG third or the first phase game. So I think you understand what I mean, because in that sense, the atmosphere of this game will be quite reduced to like standard the standard perspective of RPG or action games. But from from this view, from her shoulder, um, I think we are more involved into these voices and into the sensualization. Yeah. So I think if you have other questions, I can answer, or we can just turn to our group to discuss it in person if you wish. Yeah, sure, of course. Please ask. Uh, Basically, yes, sequel is an interesting question because basically what we have a teaser, um, and I will try to show you um, if you have time, because teaser of the sequel is telling nothing, but at the same time it tells everything. Okay. Uh, it seems there is no sound in the in the sequel, but anyway, you can find it easily yourself. So basically, um, the sequel is like a technical demo of Unreal Engine 5, I suppose, and gives us certain information, as I guess, about Senua's past. And how we received the images of these demons, because basically from the trailer of the second part you will see that all these demons with corrupted faces and wearing a mask made of wood and everything, you will see that it looked definitely like helmets that Senua's warriors wore, and perhaps it will be somehow played with this connection between the first part as demons, these warriors combined together in sense of her traumatic memories and so on. Maybe not, I don't know, but basically it's like a technical demo, and you will see how they played with facile animation, because it's really impressive and it's really super cinematographic. So I recommend to watch the Hellblade Senua Saga trailer. So relating to the answering on Paulina question, it's a good question, because yes, it gives experience, as the main academic advisor of this game said, to give experience of creative basis of psychosis. So like psychosis is not something you have like, I mean, it's not something established, it's always something personal, and it's always created within the environment and created within the thoughts and other things. In that sense, I think these conflicting voices and involving a player into these voices directly is a part of this representation of creative part of psychosis. But so it was idea of the advisors boards from the faculty of department of psychology from the Cambridge University. Well, for the question about a female character, well, it's a good question, but I think it's nice from the perspective that we don't have many um, many charismatic, well done female characters, and I think it's from the academic maybe, or from the gameplay part, it's not really question, but question of the design. So I think from that perspective, female character may be, I don't know, more powerful and unusual for games, because, as I said, we don't really have many female characters in computer games. So, and I don't think it was a specific reason. So maybe we can meet in Microsoft Teams, because it will be better to discuss everything in person. So how do you think? Because I'm answering just in one side and it's not like a real discussion, so maybe it will be better to discuss everything in ongoing process. Okay, so then I will look at other questions while Microsoft team is preparing. Talking about gamification of mental illness in history, yes, I think it's quite interesting and perhaps very controversial, but super perspective side of collaborative side between medieval studies or other historical studies and neuroscience, because as I told, there is a book which is not published yet but is going to be published in the next year, is Middle Ages and Cognitive Science and Medieval Studies, which is an interesting and partly experimental approach to considering to consider the medieval documents, medieval narrative, testimonies, and whatever from the perspective of cognitive sciences, not only from their like historical perspective, for instance, how people, how scholars in the Middle Ages considered mind, how they considered reason, and look what they thought from the perspective of modern neuroscience, but also for instance, we can analyze certain documents like personal text and narratives from the perspective, for instance, of attachment theory, which I think is very interesting. But again, we have some problems with what is the normativity and what was the normal in the Middle Ages, and what is the normal for the time when this attachment theory developed. So basically, what was the normal for Middle Ages will be dysfunction for us. At the same time, considering the personal experience from this perspective can be very interesting. So I think now we spent 1 hour, and I think we can finish the stream. And thank you for your attention. It was a very interesting experience to me. Basically, my first experience in streaming anything on YouTube. I hope it was not so bad, and I hope you very interested in everything I said and enjoyed my playing. So thank you very much for your attention.